Vertebral subluxation, what is that? Well, I'm a chiropractor, so I'm going to teach you a little bit about chiropractic. When a bone moves out of its normal position, and it puts stress on a nerve, ever so slightly, it will cause stress on that nerve, and we call that condition a vertebral subluxation. And vertebral subluxation is a healthy thing. It's kind of like the switch on the breaker box. You get too much electricity, it switches off so it doesn't blow up whatever's plugged into the outlet in your home. Well, the same thing happens to our spine. I mean, there are millions of different reasons of why your spine or your joint, your shoulder, your wrist, your knee, your ankle, your hip could subluxate. You could step off the curb the wrong way, you could sleep the wrong way, you could be in a car accident. You can get hit quite hardly in a football game. And vertebral subluxations are healthy, but they're unhealthy when they're left unchecked and when they're left untreated. Many vertebral subluxations or joint subluxations can be treated with simple stretches. Anybody ever lie down to stretch and you hear a pop and it feels good? You just adjusted yourself. But there are a lot of times that we can't do it to ourselves. And that's where the help of an osteopath or a chiropractor or a physical therapist comes into play to help that bone move back into its position, either through manual manipulation or using your own body's muscles to begin to pull your joints back into position. That's what a vertebral subluxation can look like. So, when you have a bone that's misaligned, what begins to happen? It begins to irritate the nerve. Now the nerve is irritated, and it begins to create a chemical reaction. Over a long period of time, it will begin to irritate the bone and the joint that it exits from, and then that bone begins to degenerate. Now we can call it degenerative arthritis. You have many different kinds of arthritis. Psoriatic arthritis, erosive arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. The most common form of all the arthritis, 72% or better, is degenerative or osteoarthritis. And degenerative arthritis is something that's acquired through life. And you can control that. The other ones that I mentioned, those are ones that they're mapped out, they're in your genes, and thank goodness for medication because it really helps that out. And thank goodness for nutrition because it can really help that out. And in the same way, you can make it worse. How can nutrition make it worse? Anything that makes your body really acidic. Fried foods and lots of meat and lots of dairy will make arthritis worse. And not only will it make arthritis worse, but it will make other things bad too degenerate, like your arteries and your heart. And believe me, there are lots of really good foods that you can eat that are really healthy for you and taste really good. And does that mean that you can't have a turkey on Thanksgiving? No. You can enjoy things, but in moderation. Just like they used to do a long time ago. They didn't always have a lamb to kill, or the beef to slaughter, or the camel, or whatever animal it is that they were going to eat. It wasn't readily available all the time. So it shouldn't be in our diets all the time. We should be careful of that. When you have a bone that is damaged and it irritates the nerve, then the right amount of chemistry isn't secreted because the gland isn't getting the right information. It can't possibly function well. So when you can have a corrected bone, and you can have a nerve that has a lot of relief upon it, whether through mechanical change or chemical change, then you end up having a central nervous system that works well, that causes the chemicals to be released correctly, the glands can work well, And now we can perform well because our cells are communicating the way that they should. Anybody have a little too much wine the night before? How do you feel the next morning? Not too good. Or if you worked out in the yard a little too much and you didn't stretch the right way before and after? Or how about if you just heard some really bad news and you get really stressed out? Your body begins to shut down and you start to lose weight. You get sick more often. Or if we have a job that's not fun to go to, then we begin to be sick. Does anybody know what an adjustment is? Great. What's an adjustment?
Well, I go to a chiropractor. He adjusts my spine so that everything's lined up, and I get rid of all the pinch points and so on, so everything works perfectly as much as possible.
Thank you. What is your definition of an adjustment?
Oh, it's difficult. I feel better after.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know the definition, but
You
I just have experience that I feel better.
Yes. You had your hand up?
Yeah, the adjustments are a physical manipulation of our bones and puts everything back in the way it's supposed to be, and you walk out feeling much better.
Yes. And how do we help keep it that way? Bev?
Well, by having routine checkups and adjustments, and the doctor feels the back, and you'll find the spot that's causing something else.
That's right.
When he touches it, you go, ow!
So, you know, a subluxation, it doesn't hurt, not in the beginning. So how many of us know a 2-year-old that tells you that they're hurting or in pain? Unless they have fall and they really hurt themselves, but it's over pretty quick. Little ones, they don't hurt unless there's an out of the ordinary condition. But do you think that they're subluxated? Yeah, how about coming out of the birth canal? Do you think that they're subluxated? Right? My son was 2 months early. He was born at 3 pounds, 12 ounces. And he was 2 hours old the first time I adjusted him. And my daughter was born 1 month early. And so she was considered full term. And she was 5 pounds, 6 ounces. And she was 8.5 hours old the first time she was adjusted. Babies need it too. Matter of fact, the grandparents that are hurting a lot and have arthritis all throughout their spine and didn't take care of themselves say, it's been 3 times, how come I'm not better? And what I want to say is, I'm going to do the best that I can, but I want you to go home and get the grandkids so that they're not like this when they're your age. Because I want them to age and not get old. Now, if you have lots of arthritis and you're hurting and there's pain, can there be help? Yes, there can. The question is what is the prognosis? What should you expect? And that's very different from person to person. But moving a bone and taking pressure off of a nerve is almost always possible. And when it's not, there are still other options. Let's talk about some of those other options. We mentioned a little bit about food. And if my wife were here, she can talk all about it. I think you saw the license plate, Eat Healthy. She's very passionate about nutrition. And it just does so much for the body. Go without Tylenol for a month and see how you feel. Go without food for a month and see if you're still around. Okay? Food is very powerful, and it needs to be talked about so much more often. And I have to say this one more time because it's in our American culture. Feasting should be that It should be a feast, it should be a festival, it should be a time where we celebrate. But we can't do that every other weekend or every other day. It causes a lot of stress on the body. Other ways of helping, acupuncture, which can be a whole other lecture, and I would love to talk to you about that again if you'd love me to do that. But acupuncture is a very powerful tool that's been around for not just decades or centuries, but millenniums. So for it to be around that long, there's really something to it. Our body has a central nervous system, a nervous system. It has a cardiovascular system. It has a pulmonary system, an endocrine system. It also has an energy system. And it's stuff that's factual, it's science, it's measured. And acupuncture helps to harness that energy system and manipulate it so that it can work well. And they've been using it in the eastern part of the world for a long, long time, healing people. Anybody ever hear of Tai Chi? Tai Chi is, one of those martial arts that helps to move the body's chi or energy. It helps to regulate that, and it's a practice that many in the Asian culture practice on a daily basis. And that's one of the ways that they're able to work 16 hours in the rice paddies. And I know that they're not getting cortisone injections, and they don't have access to medicine the way that we do, but they continue to function, and they're able to be 80 and 85 and 90 years old, and they can bring their knee behind their head. And they're aging, and they're working really hard. So this illustration here is an example of what happens to our body when we don't take care of it. Degeneration is like our bones are rotting. And I have to use that term that boldly because it's really what it's like. And treating it might mean discipline, home exercise, watching when you eat, watching your stress levels. Stress levels. A few months back, I had a pair of trousers that I folded and I put on the bed. And my wife came and she saw the trousers and she took them and hung them up and put them in the closet. And I came out of the restroom and I said, where did my trousers go? And I got agitated, and I just sat for a minute and I thought, is it really worth getting upset over something so simple? I have a very dear friend of mine, last November, his 17-year-old daughter died in a car accident. It just makes you reflect back and think silly things really shouldn't get you so upset or irritated. And so when there's stress in your life, think back for a moment, is it really worth it? Because it probably isn't. There are very few out of the ordinary circumstances. And keeping your stress levels low is a real important part of inner health. So when we can take care of our bodies, or when we don't take care of our bodies, you might think as well, not only is it discipline and hard to do, but it might be expensive. But when you get to a certain point, if you have termites in your home, you might see one or two and step on them and think that they're gone. And you might see a few more and you might spray them and think that they're gone. And then you think, well, an exterminator is a little too expensive. But 30 years later, your house falls apart. You can use money and buy another home, but when it's your body, it's just too late. Everybody has subluxations. Subluxations affect everything in our life and everything the way that we perform. So get yourself checked, talk to your doctors. If you have a medical doctor and you ask them a question about nutrition, and they ignore it, or they don't at least refer you to a nutritionist, fire them and find a new doctor. Because it is that important.